Man, you see the title, you see what's on the screen.
I-19 had a secret romance with the 42-year-old bad boy at Panera Bread. He then went to prison.
What is she trying to insinuate by saying then he went to prison? Did she?
And that's actually the first night we had sex.
Okay.
It wasn't great. It felt very forceful on his end. Like, he felt very strong. It felt very like I didn't have a lot of control over what was happening.
What?
Are you trying to say that this man raped?
He tells me, oh, it was great, whatever. And he actually ended up coming inside.
That's what I was about
me.
to ask. Was it protected sex? Yeah. Okay. Wow. So
and that's why I said it came out of nowhere.
Shorty really said it came out of nowhere.
What?
No communication, no condom, no ask if you're on birth control, no anything.
And I was not on birth control because I had been single since my ex, and I stopped taking it because I hate birth control. So
what was going through his head?
I don't know. He just told me, he's like, I didn't think you would let it happen unless you were on the pill or like unless you were protected.
L-man's in the chat, man. L-man's. So you're completely absolved of all responsibility. Like you you know it's about to happen, and then you're like, she's not really resisting. She's probably on birth control, and
I'm just like, what? And then he informs me that he will not have an orgasm unless he's condom free and it's inside of someone.
This reminds me of a book we did when I was in high school. It was a similar situation where it was like a bus conductor who had a relationship with a girl who was still in high school, and then she went to his house and she went with her aunt, and they got there. And then they're like, oh, this is your child. And then he starts refusing, and she starts giving the evidence. And then she said that what he said when they were about to get it on, she was like, use protection. And then in Shona, what he said is, Andijgi sweet rakaputirwa.
What?
So I was just thinking that he's the same type of dude who's like superstitious like that.
He won't orgasm from a hand job. He won't orgasm from your mouth. Like, he is solely like inside of you without a condom. And I'm just like, okay. And I kind of don't say anything, even though it really bothers me. And I think it's because I was so alone and isolated that I was so worried about losing this one person that made my world a little bit better.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? That's tough.
I feel like this is commonplace now, and really, yeah, man, things shouldn't be like this, where you're completely dependent on a person and you're willing to put up with whatever they want to do with you just because you feel like they aren't replaceable. Man, it's unfortunate, but
So that first time you have sex, he says the orgasm thing, which insinuates we're going to have more sex when this will happen again. And this will happen again and again and again because I need to orgasm. And to do that, here's what needs to happen.
Yeah. And he told me that he doesn't need it. And that's kind of like another thing that was a red flag, is like someone telling you like, I only orgasm if I'm in you, but like, I don't need it.
What a weird thing to say.
What?
That is such a
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
backwards thing to ever say to someone. It's the most confusing sentence I've ever heard. And so I wasn't necessarily under the full impression like it was going to happen again. I did feel like I remained some control over my body, and that felt pretty good. But I didn't feel like I was in total control over everything, because there was a clear power dynamic that I just now, looking back, I understand. But in the time, I was just like, we're equals.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this was a discussion that was had on a podcast by these two women, and it was creating some controversy on TikTok. As always, we're going to check out some of these comments from people who are reacting to this conversation and their take on this story shared by the woman in this video. So the first comment here says, ladies, this is when you have a choice.
Leave! You don't need to stay with someone who makes you feel like you only need them, and without them, you possibly couldn't live on your own or survive on your own. Leave, please. ... But I can't help but feel like the person who commented this meant to say they have a choice to just go to the police and completely fabricate a story about what actually happened. And I just can't help but feel that that's what they were insinuating. So,
And next comment says, but it takes two to tango.
I thought it takes two to tango, but that's besides the point. I was thinking the same thing initially. I was like, yeah, because you got yourself into that situation. So you aren't completely absolved from that kind of situation. Plus, you're 19. What are you doing with a 42-year-old? I mean, come on. Like, what point of commonality can you have with someone? He's over. He's basically more than twice your age. This reminds me of a teacher we used to have in high school, and sometimes just to highlight the generational gap that was there, she was like, do you know that I'm over 3 times your age? This was when you were like 16. It was just weird. And especially, when they walk around and they're looking at your work and then they go on your desk, they put their arms there right in front of you. I actually had a friend who had that happen to him with that same teacher, and it was extremely weird. Because the desk is lower than her upper body is, she had to lean down, and it was so weird.
This man asked what's going through her head. So we've got another comment here that says, I don't say anything even though I know, I believe that's what that's supposed to say, even though I know it's bothering me. The commenter goes on to say, well, then all that's her fault. Speak up, and if he doesn't comply, cut him off.
This is what I think. No one is absolved from blame in this situation. The girl got herself into it, and this man is, I don't want to say a psychopath, but you get what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, depending on what proportion of the blame you want to place on who, that's up to you. I just look at it like there's no one who isn't at fault in this situation. So yeah.
And someone responded and said, nah, she'd rather destroy his life later.
This is another thing that really points to the questionability, does the word exist, of this girl's intentions. Like, what at 19 are you doing with a 42-year-old man? Like, really?
Next, we have another comment here that says, as a 41-year-old, I gotta say, I hate that happened, but would love to hear his side. I mean, the guy wasn't a complete stranger, right?
Yeah, I also believe that's important to hear both sides of the story. There's a saying that there's 3 sides to every story. There's the one side, and then the other side, and then the truth. So it's important to get all sides of the story so that we know what really is going on.
Someone responded and said, facts. Next, we got another comment here that says the vocal fry is heavy with this one, followed by next comment. You got to realize when you're getting played. Next, this commenter says no such thing as a 42-year-old bad boy. Guy was just taking risk. Next comment, she allowed it and had control also. Comment here says, what was going through his head? Can we share some responsibility here? And a response from another man who says, all the man's fault. She takes no responsibility at all. What do you guys think of this story that was shared with this woman? Do you think that the responsibility in this conversation was equally shared? And also, do you think that the power imbalances here were off?
Oh, cool.